Hey, Leads Geeks, it's Jim and Cody today. So today we're going to continue the series about what ISAs should concentrate on during their first year of production. So today, Cody's going to take us kind of through months 6 through 12 and really talk about three big things that are important to an ISA really to be successful in this role. So Cody, what's the first thing an ISA should be successful with from months 6 through 12?
So one of the things that I think about through my months 6 through 12 was really having a system. You got to stay organized, and it's really easy, especially when you spent month 1 through 6 just going nuts, going ham, making dials, smiling and dialing, and going, building up that pipeline. And all of a sudden you've got a full pipeline, but you also still are in that track of just going. That was definitely something that I struggled with early on. Really needed help building my system around my follow-ups, making sure that I know Eric kind of talked about it in the last video you guys did, talking about, why am I scheduling this follow-up for this time, and really having those hard guidelines so that when leads are coming in, they're getting to where they need to be. You're following up, you're booking appointments, but you're also having that consistent system as you're moving forward and continuing to prospect.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, what are some of those hard guidelines that you're looking for, Cody, when you're managing your pipeline? How big is your pipeline typically as well?
So I took a big cut. I would say anywhere from 400 to 600. It definitely has gone down as we're getting out of the busy season. Stuff is closing. I also made in my first year here made the mistake of I was letting everybody in my my pipeline wasn't very exclusive. It was more of a Burger King. You can just walk in the door. Everybody's welcome. And I wish that I would have been a little more strict about guidelines, or setting up some of those boundaries when I first let him in. I know Eric talked a little bit about knowing when to say no. I had a really hard time saying no because I wanted to build it up, want to make that money, want to set appointments, and that winds up just biting you in your rear end. So that's definitely one of the big ones, is knowing what gets in and what doesn't need to get in. Understanding your follow-ups and prioritizing your leads is a big one, and those lines get a little bit fuzzy sometimes depending on the story that you get and how deep you actually go as you're talking to some of your leads. So making sure that the guidelines between what is an A, what is a B, what is a C, what is a D, making sure that those are crystal clear to you, and not really moving on those, and then making sure you have the appropriate structure to follow up on those leads as you're adding more and more to the pipeline.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I think something that you and I have talked about a lot is really systemizing it and really taking your time with your A's and B's and trying to systemize and automate with your C's and D's. Does that sound correct? Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. So first thing obviously is having a system and systemizing your leads and categorizing your leads. What's the second thing you need to concentrate on months 6 through 12?
So months 6 through 12, rule number 2 I say is don't get too sophisticated. So one of the things, and we see it all the time in our industry, people are coming up with the hot new script or the new piece of machinery or the new tool that's going to make your lead follow through and everything 10 times easier. Just pick up the phone. Don't get too sophisticated with all this. And I'm guilty of it just as much as anybody else. It's really easy to get caught up in the drip campaigns and the sales funnels and the automated texting and all this, and don't get too sophisticated that you lose track of getting back to basics. For me personally, anytime that we've done a lead conversion in Fargo that Robbie's taught and that Jim's taught, it's always a good refresher to get back to those basics and remember to keep revisiting those, whether that's through role play, through your own study, or just analyzing your own conversations. I find I learn more listening to my own conversations than I think I do in anything. So don't get too sophisticated.
Yeah, I think, what I always talk about is you can know how to say everything in the world and know all the scripts of the world, but if you don't actually pick up the phone to talk to people, how do you actually fill what you want to do? I see that all the time on like Lab Coat Agents. I was just looking on there a couple of minutes ago. There was a thread and it was, what do you do with this? And it was literally back and forth with 100 different comments. And I just thought to myself, like, in the same amount of time that you took to write all those comments, why don't you just go pick up the phone more? You're going to get rejected in this career and in this role. Why don't you just go pick up the phone more instead of getting fancy? Mm-hmm. So obviously, yeah, back to basics is the second thing. What's kind of the third thing, Cody?
Third one, always look cool. No, I'm kidding. Number 3 is always have a routine. You got to have those hard guidelines. I'm a firm believer in routines. I know Eric and Jim are both believers in routines. Maybe that's a military thing, but frankly, it's just knowing what you're supposed to be doing, when you're supposed to be doing it, and then executing on that. I think is absolutely critical.
Yeah, when I look at your calendar, it is by far the most systemized calendar I've ever seen. You live and die by your calendar, and basically, I mean, I do it as well, but you're talking basically you have time scheduled to sleep, you have time scheduled to go out on dates, you have time with your other hobbies and other activities outside of work. Every minute of your day is scheduled. Am I right or am I wrong?
Down to the half hour.
Down to the half hour. And actually, most people that are super successful will have that down to 5 minutes even as well. So, I mean, I think a lot of times people sit there and they wonder, well, what should I be doing? What should I be doing? If you just systemize your day and you have your routine, for instance, I had 30 minutes yesterday from 4:30 till about 5 before I was going to go home and see my wife. And as long as you have your routine, you can systemize, you can I cracked out 75 calls in that time and made 2 appointments. You have to have your routine and abide by it, or you're never going to lead the life that you want to. So yeah, we talked about obviously systemizing 6 months, 6 through 12. Talked about don't get fancy, get back to basics, and then obviously having a routine. Am I missing anything else, Cody?
Kind of building, this kind of fits into having a routine, but something my granddad used to always say is a lack of boundaries invites a lack of respect. And I think that's really, really important. Whether that's talking about having a routine, for some people, for me, I'm absolutely retentive about it. It's down to the 30 minutes. For other people, that might be, I'm going to block off my 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock hour, and that's my power hour, and that's when I'm going to be, doing outbound calls. I'm going to try and contact people that haven't been contacted. Maybe from 10 to 12, that's my follow-up time. Figure out what works for you. You don't need to have it down to the half hour. I mean, you don't need to be Elon Musk about this kind of thing. Just do what works for you, but have those boundaries and make sure that people respect those boundaries. Make sure those boundaries are known. For me, I print out my calendar every single morning. I highlight times that I'm available, and I have, highlight times that absolutely do not knock on my door, and I put it on the wall or put it on my door. And you know what? That's good enough. People know. Establish those boundaries in home too, because that's another one. It's, for a lot of us, we do remote work, or, we do a lot of work from home, and you got to have those boundaries. So, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think you have to have, other people have to respect those boundaries, but even more important, you have to respect those boundaries. You have to put in the time. If you have that time blocked out to do lead gen, do your lead gen. It's the only way you make money in this industry, and it's the only way you help people. So do it. Last thing I guess I have is a nice t-shirt, man. So yeah, I like it. So that's what we got for today, people. It's a Tuesday. We know most people are actually pretty engaged today compared to tomorrow, so we wanted to post today as well. Let us know what questions you got, any comments you got, and hope you have a great night.